Every search for a hero must begin with something that every hero requires. A villain.
Audacious.
Didn't I warn you not to trust anybody, Dr. Jones?
Bombastic.
Stage lads! This is my only number!
Magnificent.
Pay a man enough, and he'll walk barefoot into hell.
And not to mention impeccably snappy dressers.
And by the way, the suit, it wasn't cheap. You ought to know, you bought it.
It is a facet of narrative that it is most often the villain's privilege to motivate the plot. For instance, had Vader not chased down the rebel ship at the start of Episode 4, then Luke might never have left the farm on Tatooine. Likewise, had Maleficent not cursed the baby Aurora to prick her finger on the spindle of a spinning wheel and die, then presumably none of the story of Sleeping Beauty would have even taken place. Greetings, good storytellers. I am the artful narrator, and it is my privilege to welcome you to learning the tropes of writing. Now, any writer who wishes to craft a villain compelling enough to drive the plot of the story must first answer the question, what, pray tell, is the villain's dastardly plan? What is it that he seeks to obtain? Power? Wealth? World domination? And how shall the villain accomplish this? Through lost arcane arts? Advanced technology? Or through the sheer brilliance of a devious mind and a gift for manipulation? Yes, these are the classic questions. What and how? But hold on, we seem to be forgetting something. This is not some cartoonish, two-dimensional villain. No, indeed. He is a complex character, worthy of honest Iago of old.
You're too kind. I'm embarrassed. I'm blushing.
No, not the parrot. We are talking about Shakespeare here.
How am I then a villain? Well, this advice is free, I give, and honest. Probable to thinking, and indeed, the course to win the moor again.
And in our quest for the what and how, we sometimes forget to ask, perhaps, the most important question of all. Why? Why is he doing all this? Is it simply because he is evil?
It's my first real stab at cliched villainy. How am I doing?
In an interview, Ricardo Montalban of Khan fame said,
I have played many different kinds of roles.
Captain, although your abilities intrigue me, you are quite honestly inferior.
In every time, I portray a character never thinking that if he's a gangster or a killer, or never thinking he's evil. I'm sure that the worst criminal in one doesn't think of himself as being evil. I think perhaps I was able to achieve a certain, if not vulnerability, at least some kind of humanity in the character.
This idea that antagonists would not see themselves as villainous is a compelling concept for me. After all, it is much more human to instead think in terms of wants and needs. So while a person may do villainous things, he would likely feel that his cause is just, or merely not concern himself with the moral implications of his actions. And while there are always exceptions, it is still highly desirable to allow antagonists to be in some way relatable, which has led me to gravitate toward antagonists whose motivations are more dynamic than simply evil for evil's sake. Although the evil Emperor Zurg is a joy to behold.
So, you're free. Well, fiddle-dee-dee.
Here are a few examples of villains with interesting motivations as to why they do what they do. Be prepared, however, as there will be significant spoilers for the following 3 examples. In Pirates of the Caribbean: Curse of the Black Pearl, Captain Barbossa and his crew of miscreants scour the seas for the final missing piece of the treasure of the dreaded Isla de Murta. Cursed by the treasure, they are no longer among the living, and so they cannot die, but neither are they dead. Trapped in the state of near immortality, Barbossa's curse is a gift that many other antagonists would die for. And yet, despite this, what Barbossa wants is to free himself of the curse. And how he plans to do this is by returning the final missing coin to the stone chest. And why he wants to do this is so that he might become mortal again and enjoy the simple sensations of life denied him in his deathless existence.
For too long I've been parched of thirst and unable to quench it. Too long I've been starving to death
and haven't died. I feel nothing. Not the wind on my face, nor the spray of the sea.
To have an antagonist who already possesses immortality, and yet wants only to be able to live again, casts Barbossa in a very sympathetic light, as a man seeking to regain his humanity.
You best start believing in ghost stories, Miss Turner. You're in one.
Next I would present you with the main antagonist from Season 1 of The Arrow. A multifaceted individual, Malcolm Merlyn is many things. Eminent businessman, loving father, nocturnal archery enthusiast, and of course the mastermind behind the undertaking. What he wants is to destroy the Glades so that he can cleanse Starling City of the criminals that dwell there and rebuild it anew. How he plans to do this is by using a seismic device hidden in the old subway tunnels to make it seem that an earthquake leveled the offending slums. Why he wants to do this is because his wife was murdered in the Glades and he holds the people there responsible. But, more importantly, he blames himself for being angry with her on that fateful day and not answering the phone call, which he later learned was her last call for help. A profoundly tragic character, Malcolm Merlyn is a prime example of an antagonist we can sympathize with, even if we cannot condone his actions.
The night your mother died, she called me. I woke to a voicemail from her. Dad?
Malcolm, I'm in trouble. I told him to take everything. My money. My ring.
Turn it off.
He shot me. I screamed for help, but no
one would come.
Home. Oh, God. Malcolm, I don't want to die alone.
And finally, let us consider the superb Disney series, Gargoyles.
Stone by day, warriors by night. We were betrayed by the humans we had sworn to protect, frozen in stone by a magic spell for 1,000 years. Now here in Manhattan, the spell is broken, and we live again!
Seemingly the last of their kind, they decide to put past betrayals behind them and dedicate themselves to watching over the island of Manhattan. All except for Demona, whose hatred for the humans will not be quelled until she has exacted revenge for the massacre of her clan at the hands of the Vikings. That is what Demona wants. And how she plans to achieve this is through employing the sorcery of the past and the science of the present. However, it is the why that sets Demona apart. For it is revealed that 1,000 years ago, Demona plotted with the human captain of the guard to divert the gargoyles away from the castle, so that after the Vikings had plundered it, the gargoyles might have the castle all to themselves. Tragically, things do not go as planned, and so it is that we learn Demona's why. She blinds herself with hatred and seeks to visit vengeance upon the humans, because if she did not, then she would have to face the realization that it is she, and not the humans, who is to blame for the death of her clan.
At last my clan is free of human rule. Brothers? Sisters? No. Oh, my love. What have they done to you?
She is truly the architect of her own tragedy, and because of this, a character of Shakespearean caliber. This formula of what, how, and why comes from a TED Talk Simon Sinek gave called How Great Leaders Inspire Action. In it, he spoke at length and with great eloquence about what he called the Golden Circle, which is comprised of 3 parts: what we do, how we do it, and why we do it. He elaborated that most people start with the what, when in fact we should start with the why. For while what and how speak to our rational minds, it is the why that resonates with our hearts and our imaginations. Links for the original video on screen and in the description. I highly recommend it. Now I believe that this approach does not just have applications in business, but also in writing, and particularly in writing villains. And while there are stories that are better served by keeping their antagonist motives more enigmatic, and many legendary villains who were born of this approach. This merely means that there are numerous literary tools to use when crafting a great antagonist, and I feel that this concept of why should hold a place among them. So if you elect to try this technique, know your villain's what and how would make his why truly stellar. Because, after all, they say that a hero is only as good as his villain.
Oh yes.
Thank you very much for watching. I hope this video has been informative, or at the very least, a pleasant diversion. Until next time.